Welcome to Turnpike Sports. I'm Dave Weischadle, and as always, I'm joined by my producer and co-host, Doug Weischadle. Doug, I guess the Todd Bowles era has started in Tampa Bay. What a weird and wacky scene down in Tampa.
I have to admit, I'm very happy for the guy because he got saddled with such a really bad Jets team. When he was here at the Jets, and I always felt bad because he had to learn on the fly. It was his first coaching experience ever when he got hired in New York. They went 10-6 in their first year, but that was because that team was loaded with really high caliber veterans, and they were gone after that year. And they had to deal with the battle with Fitzpatrick to bring him back. He didn't come back. It was just such a crazy 2 years after that first year.
Well, now
he never had a shot.
Now he has no excuses. He's got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and it's not the crazy quarterback carousel that was in the New York Jets organization. So I think he's going to do well. I think he's going to attract a lot of defensive players. For Tampa Bay, offensive players want to go down there for Brady. Now defensive players will want to go down there and play for Todd Bowles. I think it's a great situation for Tampa Bay.
They do have both. And I know with the Jets, it wasn't really so much as a quarterback carousel that he had to deal with. He had a quarterback with a lack of players around it after that first year. 10-6 was a great start. It was Fitzpatrick.
The quarterback? Fitzpatrick. But he also had Bryce
Harper. Bryce
something or other.
Yeah.
So I think he was there with the Jets for a cup of coffee, and that was it. Boy, he had nothing to work with.
Well, I remember there was a time and that second year where Fitzpatrick held out of all training camp. That year they had like 3 different quarterbacks playing.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
so that's the whole
It's a mess.
Crap sandwich he had to deal with in New York. He should do very well in Tampa Bay. So congratulations to Todd Bowles.
He's going to be very happy. 5-year deal.
Yeah,
and even Arians is still there in some capacity because he's going to be in the front office, and he's got a Hall of Fame quarterback that he can work with.
It's such a weird situation down there with Arians and Tom Brady, and who knows what was going on there. What a power struggle that was. So,
I don't know if there was or wasn't. You never know.
It's weird. But we got a great show coming up. We got a Beatin The House. We got a book report, and I'm talking with Bennett Conlin. His first time on the show. He's from SportsHandle, USBets.com, and Better Collective. We're going to talk about some of the biggest news stories in the sports betting world, including the suspension of an NFL player.
Calvin Ridley.
For betting on games. So today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Exit 1.
And this is the first exit that we're not going to be talking sports betting per se.
Okay.
Everyone knows what April means for a lot of these players. It's not Final Four. It's not Sweet 16. It's any of that. It's tax time.
Yeah.
And
in our broadcast show, we used to have a tax attorney or an accountant that specialized in doing taxes for gamblers. So it was an interesting we haven't done that in a long time.
Well, the reason I'm focusing on tax time here is, number one, it is tax time. People have to start thinking about that no matter what people want to do. You can extend it, whatever you want to do. But it also gives us a chance to look at this new bill that was introduced called the Shifting Limits on Thresholds, or SLOT Act.
Okay.
And it's being introduced to, I guess the best way to put it is to adapt to the current industry standards that are out there right now, because the bill was brought in back in 1977, and it hasn't changed since then. What the original bill has said is that if you have a jackpot of a threshold of at least $1,200, you had to report it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's been around for 45 years. Hasn't been updated. That number hasn't changed. And what this new bill, or this new version of the bill, I don't know however you want to phrase it, it's basically the same bill. It's just they're raising the limits. They're adjusting for inflation.
Okay, that's good.
Instead of $1,200, it's $5,000.
So if you get a $5,000 jackpot on a slot machine, that's where you have to.
If you get a $5,000 windfall anywhere,
okay, so that's when the taxes come into issue.
right? What's happening now is when you hit 1,200, the casino has to generate the paperwork to report it to the IRS. You got to report it, whether you do or not. That's a whole other issue, but. Under the tax laws right now, you do have to account for a $1,200 jackpot.
Okay.
This is not only good for the player, it's also great for the casino because it cuts down on the work for the casinos. You don't have to worry about every tiny jackpot that happens because there are a lot of jackpots under $5,000 that occur every day.
Sure.
And not having to generate this kind of paperwork for a ordinary, I don't want to say ordinary, but for a slightly less than life-changing jackpot, it's actually a time saver.
I know, like, whenever a jackpot hits, not only do they have that big check that they have to get out to the customer so they can take a picture with them.
The novelty check.
There's a bunch of paperwork. So,
yeah.
For, state and federal taxes and things like that. So,
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it actually makes it through. It's the American Gaming Association's been behind it, and it is 45 years since this bill has been changed, or this act has been changed, and it's really not accounting for modern day accounting purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The other thing regarding tax time, and I'll take New Jersey. The one thing I've always wanted to stress, and you mentioned we used to do interviews with tax experts.
Yeah, don't
every
forget,
year.
if you lose at gambling, you can take some deductions, though. Check with your accountant.
Well,
you have to figure that one out.
This is why, since we're in New Jersey,
yeah.
According to New Jersey, you can only deduct the same amount that you have won, up to the same amount you've won. So if you win like $4,000 and you spent $5,000 to get that $4,000 win, you can only deduct $4,000.
Yeah.
So it's one of those situations where, and again, we should be getting some experts on to talk about this because everything is changing.
Yeah, no, it's it gets complicated, especially if some of the people we deal with, they consider themselves professional gamblers. So you have all these business deductions that they take and things like that. So you really have to figure it out what kind of situation you're in when dealing with losses and gains from a casino.
But always go see a professional.
Yes, go see an accountant.
Exit 2.
In today's eSports exit, we talked last week in Exit 1 about sports betting themed bars. We're now going to talk about eSports bars.
I've never been in an eSports bar. What is an eSports bar? Just constant video games all around me?
It's alcohol and video games mixed together.
All right, there you go.
Swedish eSports bar restaurant franchise. They even have franchises.
Okay, really? All right.
Kappa Bar.
That's not in this country, right?
That's not in this country.
Okay, all right.
It very well could be soon.
Well, why not? Yeah, it's a big thing.
Swedish esports bar and restaurant franchise Kappa Bar has acquired French esports bar chain Meltdown Bars. The two businesses are now going to be called Kappa Meltdown Group.
So you have a Swedish esports bar and a French esports bar. They're combining. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is an 8-figure amount of money paid from Kappa to Meltdown.
All right.
And just a little background. Kappa Bar was founded as a basement in 2016 in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Okay, it was someone's basement, pretty much? Or
basement
bar.
Basement bar. People were playing esports.
There's kind of a bar like that in Boston. I guess it's Father's First. It has like lounge chairs.
Something like that,
I mean, when I was going to law school, that's where it was. But I don't know if it's still around anymore.
Well, this one, Kappa Bar started in 2016, and it expanded to 8 locations across Sweden.
Okay.
Metz's Meltdown Bar was founded in 2012 in Paris, and they debuted in 2013, and then they expanded across France, Belgium, Canada, England, Panama, and Spain into 2019.
Wow. Boy.
So I would say
this is a big deal.
The expansion for I think the Meltdown bars was a little bit more substantial than Kappa.
Sure.
So
I didn't even know this was an industry. I didn't know. I know esports was big. I didn't think there were esport bars.
Well, if you think about it, if they're going to be sports betting bars, where did they get the idea from? They didn't just get that idea out of thin air. They've seen this stuff before. And even the United States, if I remember correctly, there was let me see, I threw it down in my notes too so I wouldn't forget it. Based upon the barcraft movement in Seattle.
Okay.
So there is precedent in the United States for these types of bars here. Now, like I said, this is going to be called the Kappa Meltdown Bar Restaurant Chain. Best bar and restaurant franchise.
Okay, all right.
They're anticipating to expand by 2027 to have 100 venues.
So anything in this country? Because I would love to check one of these things out. Sounds like it's a pretty fun time.
I would think you're going to be seeing them in this country the way esports is growing.
Yeah.
Esports has become a corporate franchise event kind of industry. And, I can see something like a Starbucks getting involved with this and flipping it to be a coffee house esports kind of restaurant chain. Uh-huh. You had Anheuser-Busch had an esports bar program called Countdown in the UK. So it was one of those situations where it's a common thing overseas, but not common yet here.
Oh, okay.
And again, with the way the sports betting industry is now doing sports betting themed bars where there's not a sports book in it, I'm assuming we're gonna start seeing esports bars across the United States.
It sounds like a good idea.
So
obviously they're making money. One bar bought another bar chain for 8 figures, so obviously it's doing well over there. So I might as well try it over here. I'm sure someone's going to jump on it. Not these two groups, but maybe someone here that's based in the U.S. will, probably start something up based on these guys.
Well, part of this deal was actually they have another component to this deal that is actually brilliant. It has its own marketing agency as part of it.
Oh, makes sense.
The deal included the content and branding studio Pixel and Poly.
Okay.
Now, Poly's not the person's name; it's the POLY, which is the tech term.
Oh, okay.
So it's an in-house
I'm not
communication.
a tech guy. What does Poly stand for?
Usually, when you see poly-sided, it's multi-sided. Things,
oh, okay.
Polygons, that sort of stuff.
Okay, I get it now.
Some kind of geometric.
Okay, Pixel and Poly. Okay,
yeah. Pixel. Right. You know what pixel is.
I know what a pixel is. Yeah.
And but this company, this studio, this branding studio, works with like live entertainment. So
cool. Yeah.
They're going to be able to actually have their own in-house promotion arm going with this stuff, and I really want to see if they get into the United States.
No, I'm being serious. I definitely want to check this out.
Yeah, I think someplace like New Jersey, where they just had their first esports wagering event.
Yeah.
I could see them having a presence, something like that. Or Vegas with the HyperX.
Yeah, so, absolutely. No, it'd be perfect locations. Atlantic City or Vegas would be great.
Drizzly makes it easy to shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor from wherever I am. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes.
Drizzly.
Ding dong, Drizzly.
Exit 3.
Fanatics is doing some major moves in not just the sports betting industry, but also in terms of the ancillary product business for like the sports and entertainment industry. Fanatics just announced a deal with the WWE.
Oh, okay. Is this for like clothing and things like that?
It's for everything.
When I think of Fanatics, the first thing I think of is clothing. I mean, I have so much sports-oriented clothing from Fanatics, it isn't funny. But so that's when I think of Fanatics, I think of that. Well, but I know they're getting into other things.
As far as the Fanatics goes, yes, you're right. Me too. We grew up hearing Fanatics as the clothing.
Do you know how much Philadelphia Phillies stuff I have that has a Fanatics brand on it?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised at when I was reading these press releases. Mm-hmm. Fanatics was not referred to as an apparel company.
Really? Okay.
2 of them referred to Fanatics as a sports betting operation.
Okay.
I don't know if that's actually accurate right now. I know they have the gaming division.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know they're doing big things in sports betting. So,
but what they're doing with the WWE is very interesting. It's a long-term sports and entertainment deal that will expand the wrestling organization's e-commerce and licensed merchandise offering. That's a huge, long way of saying they're going to create a store and sell licensed apparel, and they're going to be the exclusive licensed apparel dealer for the WWE.
You know, along the same lines, I just found a T-shirt, like it's an old T-shirt, and I'm going to keep it because I think it's cool. It's from the WWF Times Square store. The WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, used to have a bar and restaurant in Times Square, and it was so much fun. I found a T-shirt of that. I wish I knew you were going to do this. I would have brought the T-shirt. I would have wore the T-shirt.
I remember the WWF had the restaurant or whatever they wanted to call it. And the other part of this deal between the WWE and Fanatics are the NFTs. Can't have a deal nowadays without some kind of NFT.
So are these wrestling NFTs?
Well, these are going to be physical, digital, and NFT trading cards because Fanatics bought Topps.
Okay.
So they're buying the contract with the WWE, and when Topps' contract ends with the WWE, this is when it's going to the Fanatics deal will take over. They're going to be doing NFT trading cards with Candy Digital, which is also owned by Fanatics.
Okay.
They're going to be
so
creating,
these NFTs are going to be pictures of your favorite wrestler.
Well, they're also going to be biggest moments as well
so
as pictures.
These will be also
video NFTs,
and animated. I almost said animated, but video, right?
Yes, and okay. I'm actually curious to see some of these NFTs because I'm going to read this right from the press release.
Okay.
Among the merchandise projects, by the way, they're going to be producing title belts and everything else in terms of the hardware apparel.
Okay,
so you're going to actually be able to buy a belt.
I'll buy a belt.
Yes.
Okay.
They're going to have NFTs sold in real-time, on-demand formats based on unpredictable moments from WWE events.
So you can buy these NFTs like as they happen, kind of thing.
I think that's what
almost
they're saying.
As they happen. Is that what they're saying here?
I don't know
what they're talking about.
I don't
here.
know what real-time, on-demand merchandise means anymore.
Okay.
I guess it's just because.
So I guess you would order your favorite moment that you just saw,
or you would
the
have,
WWE, and you'll get the NFT for it.
I guess if you're at WrestleMania and you see some really incredible thing happen in terms of a body slam or some kind of move, I'm assuming the WWE shop within a relative short amount of time may have an NFT ready for you.
Good. Perfect.
So I think that's kind of what they mean. I've never heard of real-time on-demand formats for merchandise before.
Is the typical WWE fan into NFTs? I'm not sure. I've been kind of out of wrestling for a long time. So.
I think the WWE fan has evolved because, remember, the WWE launched their own digital on-demand channel that you had to subscribe to. So I think they're used to the digital environment. Yeah. More so than like the Georgia Championship Wrestling guys we grew up on.
This is how we progressed. I was thrilled with my WWF T-shirt, and I still have it.
Well, you can still get those.
Now I can get an NFT with WWE. So that's how we progress. I'm thrilled with a T-shirt. Now your typical wrestling fan isn't thrilled with a T-shirt. They need an NFT. They need that moment captured in time. That's what they need.
Exit 4.
No sooner did the court rule in favor of daily fantasy sports in New York State than we have Senator Adabo attempting to expand the daily fantasy sports rules and laws in New York State.
Good for him.
I love this guy. Everything
he's great.
Senator Adabo
he's awesome.
does,
yeah.
he knows how to read the terrain perfectly in terms of legislative efforts. He read it right with mobile sports betting.
Absolutely.
I think he's reading it right with the daily fantasy sports industry in New York State right now.
Can I say how crazy it is that in New York State, they just made a final ruling on daily fantasy sports. I mean, they have about $4 billion in sports betting, and they're still talking about daily fantasy sports, and we're trying to figure out if it's legal or not. By the way, the court decided it was legal by only a 4-3 vote, which was incredibly close. But it's shocked that they're still talking about daily fantasy sports, and we've kind of evolved beyond that. I mean, New York has $4 billion in sports betting. They're talking about allowing sports betting in the stadiums and arenas. They're talking about 3 casinos in the Manhattan area, and we're still wondering if daily fantasy sports is legal. It's ridiculous.
Well, you got to remember, this case started way before the 2018 overturn of passed.
Yeah, but it should have been done a long time ago. A long time ago.
Again, you had a lot of parties squabbling.
Yeah.
And, I guarantee you some of the participants probably aren't even around anymore in terms of
it's
who was named in the suit and everything else. I know right now, current DFS law in New York State, there are operators already licensed to operate, and currently there are 15.
Okay.
And that's what's...
They're just waiting for the go-ahead. And now I guess the court gave them the go-ahead. After all these years,
they had already obtained the temporary permits to offer fantasy sports.
Yep.
And what Senator Addabbo is doing is expanding the... I don't want to say the... I guess expanding the amount of operators that the state can do or allow to operate.
Plus, New York can finally do the rules and regulations that everyone needs to get going in daily fantasy. So that was a long time coming with the court ruling.
Well, his bill will allow DFS platforms that were not operating in the state prior to November 10th, 2015 to apply for temporary permits in order to operate in the state.
Good.
Now, November 10th, 2015, that was the beginning of the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So whoever had an operating permit back then still has theirs.
Yeah.
Everyone who wasn't able to apply because of what was going on can now apply.
That was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
7 years ago.
We finally found out in New York that daily fantasy is legal.
Yeah, it opens the door to a lot of other things, too.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, if you think about it, there are groups like Skills out there that have those apps that they call them skill-based games.
Yeah, no, it's great. New York is doing amazing things in daily fantasy and sports betting and casinos, so New York is always great.
And you got to be thankful for Senator Addabbo.
Oh, yeah, no, he led the charge, and he won big, and he won big for the people of New York, so good for him.
Now, I just mentioned really quickly skill-based games.
Yep.
Since this is the DFS exit for this week, got to talk about what FanDuel just launched.
Okay.
FanDuel partnered up with a company called Game Taco.
Game Taco. I love
Game
that name.
Taco.
What a great name.
It's an online skill-based video game and tournament provider, and they've launched FanDuel Face Off. Okay. It launched in 32 jurisdictions across the U.S., and basically you actually pick your competition to go head-to-head in skill-based games.
Oh, okay.
So you got to be quicker, wittier, whatever you want to. You got to be better than your opponent.
So is this
in any type of game?
Is this legal in Jersey, or it's in 32 jurisdictions? I'm assuming it'd be in Jersey,
anywhere you see daily fantasy.
Okay.
Usually, these types of games will be available for the general public to consume.
Cool.
And it's called FanDuel Face Off.
Now I already have a FanDuel account, so I'm assuming I can do this.
It's a whole new.
It's a whole new thing.
Okay. This is not part of FanDuel.
Okay.
This is
FanDuel Face Off.
This is them expanding their brand to get more customers.
Okay. All right.
But again, this kind of goes hand in hand with the DFS ruling.
Okay.
Because they just launched it just recently, I think around the same time the ruling came out. So I'm actually curious to see exactly if anyone else tries this.
I'm going to try FanDuel. What is it called? FanDuel Face Off.
I don't mean customers trying. I mean if another company tries something.
Well,
like
I'm going to try FanDuel Face Off.
All
just because I like the name Game Taco too.
That's good name.
That's Game Taco.
And today's trip down the Turnpike was brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
And as always, you can get in touch with Turnpike Sports by calling or texting us at 609-512-5910. That's 609-512-5910. At Turnpike Sports is the show's handle on Facebook and Twitter. At Turnpike Sports Radio is our handle on Instagram. And as always, our email address is info@turnpikesportsradio.com. And don't forget, you can listen to the show via Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, radio.com mobile app, as well as Stitcher and YouTube. You can also watch us on your smart TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Head on over to turnpikesports.net. You'll be able to watch our video channel there.
Well, we got a great show coming up. We got a Beatin The House segment. We got a book report. And right after this, I'm talking with Bennett Conlin from SportsHandle, USBets.com, and Better Collective. We are going to talk about some of the biggest sports betting stories of the last couple of weeks. Has been some incredible sports betting stories. We had March Madness. I don't even know if you're supposed to say March Madness. I know some
the madness.
The madness. We'll talk about the madness, and certainly we'll get into the Calvin Ridley situation where an NFL player was suspended for betting on NFL games.
He probably won't be the last one either.
Monumentally stupid. But, Bennett Conlin's coming up right after this, so stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Yeah, you, come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore.
Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. Dave Weischadle with you here. It's been a busy couple of weeks in the sports betting world. First, we had an NFL player being suspended for betting on games. We're in the middle of one of the biggest NCAA betting events of the year, and on top of that, we have a whole bunch of states making some big news in their sports betting industries. And we are lucky to have a guest who has written about all these topics. Bennett Conlin is a great writer from USBets.com, SportsHandle, and Better Collective, and Bennett is on the line with us right now. Bennett, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and welcome to the show. It's your first time on the show, and we always love having writers from Better Collective come on and giving us an update on what's happening in the gambling world. But before we start, tell the audience a little something about yourself. How did you start writing for SportsHandle and USBets.com?
Yeah, so I graduated college in 2018 and had a job with some business writing before that or after that. And then shortly after working for business.com, I took a job with a local newspaper in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I spent about 2 years on the UVA beat covering UVA men's basketball, baseball, football, that good stuff.
Oh, good.
I was looking for something that was still sports related, but maybe not quite as crazy in terms of hours. You obviously got so many weekend games covering college sports. So found Better Collective and then was able to get a job with this company. It's been a ton of fun to kind of have a more traditional 9-to-5, but still be involved with sports.
And it's been really fun reading your articles. And you talked about one of the biggest sports betting stories that has hit the sports world lately, and that's the suspension of NFL wide receiver Calvin Ridley. The Atlanta Falcon was suspended for betting on NFL games, in particular Atlanta Falcon games. Refresh our memory of the facts of the situation. Have there been any new facts that have emerged since the story broke?
Yeah, so my colleague, Brett Smiley, reported that it was more money was wagered than Ridley kind of originally had let on. So it's closer to about $40,000 that he had wagered across a bunch of different sports. So I think there were 33 wagers on other sports and leagues outside the NFL. I think one that stood out he did within the NFL was an 11-leg parlay on NFL games.
Wow, okay.
So it was a $300 bet that would have paid out like $145,000, but it did not cash, I guess, unfortunately for Calvin Ridley. But yeah, so I think that's something that maybe hasn't gotten quite the same press, but something that Brett had obtained some records there that showed that. So makes a little more sense when you look at the suspension, the indefinite suspension, and you see a higher total. Obviously, you can't be jeopardizing the integrity of the game and things like that. So it makes sense from the NFL standpoint to put that down, and obviously unfortunate for Calvin Ridley to place that many wagers on a legal platform that was able to be tracked by the NFL.
Yeah. After hearing all the news stories, you would think that he was the first player suspended after PASPA has been struck down. But reading your article in USBets.com, you reminded me of the Arizona Cardinals' Josh Shaw. Josh Shaw was suspended for placing bets on the NFL. I mean, how much bearing did the Shaw case have on the punishment that Ridley received? I mean, certainly this happened before, and it was on the books that something like this has happened before. How much did the Shaw case come into relevance with the Ridley case?
Yeah, it's a similar suspension. I think Shaw was suspended for the entire 2020 season, although he hasn't signed with another NFL team. I think some of that, too, is it's maybe hard to compare a little bit Ridley and Shaw, knowing that obviously Ridley's, a key contributor, or was, for the Falcons, and Shaw was kind of a practice squad guy for the Cardinals when he was in the league. So that's a little different, but yeah, the 1-year suspension, there's certainly history of that happening after someone bets on the NFL, someone within the league bets on games. So I think it makes sense. And yeah, if you're the NFL, you've got a previous suspension with a similar situation that you can pull on. So I think it makes sense. There's some history there, where if you're Calvin Ridley, you kind of should have expected, I think, once this came out, a pretty lengthy suspension.
What has been the general sentiment on the punishment that Ridley received? I know some of the media felt the punishment was a bit harsh. I mean, I personally feel it was a written rule, and after you reminded me of the Josh Shaw incident and what happened before in the NFL, I think he should have gotten a year just for being monumentally stupid. But have you talked to people that felt this penalty was too harsh?
I think there are certainly some people who do, but I think when you put into perspective the actual amount that he did wager,
that's incredible.
It makes it a little more troublesome for sure. And there's also, I believe, a lot of signs within NFL locker rooms and things like that that are, they do a good job kind of educating players that you can't bet on the games and you shouldn't be betting on anything. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think if you're in Ridley's position, there's nobody to blame except yourself. It's something that he should have known and probably did know, and certainly a mistake on his end.
From what I took from the Ridley situation is that the system works. I mean, the bets were detected and the punishment was handed down. What has been the general feeling from people you've talked to? Do people feel that more safeguards need to be put in place, or have they felt that really everything worked to perfection in catching gambling and stopping it and punishing it?
Yeah, I've heard kind of some interesting feedback on that. I know some fans and people have kind of had some thoughts that are like, with legalized sports betting being more widespread, is this going to be more of an issue with people placing bets? But it kind of feels like the opposite, right? If they're able to track it well, it seems like those safeguards are in place on the legal platforms to prevent players from betting on games. I think the issue you probably had in the past and still might have that people aren't aware of is if someone's using a legal offshore bet, things like that, in a legal offshore platform, you could still probably do this without getting caught. I think it's part of the fact that he did it, I believe, in his own name, registered in his own name, and did it on a legal platform. It's going to be hard to not get caught if that's the route you go. So I think the more widespread legalization makes it a little bit easier to track and kind of regulate. So I think from that perspective, having more states legalize it is a good thing.
Now, Ridley wasn't with the team when the bets were placed. It doesn't appear that there was any inside information on the games or there were any fixing of the games. Now, this may sound like a stupid question, but did the NFL luck out that this wasn't a lot worse? I mean, as far as gambling scandals go, this could have been really, really bad.
For sure. And I think some people make an interesting point that both these situations, I think Josh Shaw was injured at the time when he was betting on NFL games. He was also away from the team. If you want to go the conspiracy theory route, it's kind of convenient for the NFL, right, that both of the players that they've made examples of were away from the team, which makes it less of a scandal.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's certainly better. It's also hard to know if there have been some players who have maybe done this behind the scenes that haven't been caught or things like that would actually jeopardize the integrity of the game without people necessarily knowing it. But yeah, him doing it while he was on, the reserve list and wasn't with the team is certainly one that helps this. He wasn't at practice getting inside info and deciding that, hey, I think we're going to lose this week or something like that.
Now, as I said before, we are right in the middle of one of the biggest NCAA betting events of the year. I got to ask you, there's always like a lot of controversy between my friends and me, and, we're always wondering, what's the biggest betting event of the year? Is it the Super Bowl or March Madness? I mean, you speak to a lot of sports betting operators. For them, is it the Super Bowl or March Madness that is a bigger event for them?
I think it's typically the Super Bowl. So I think the American Gaming Association came out with projected handle across the U.S. I want to say the Super Bowl was around $7 billion, and March Madness I think was closer to $4 billion. So it's still huge, but I think it's a little bit lower than the Super Bowl, which tends to kind of engage everyone. Although I think operators definitely enjoy the fact that March Madness spans over multiple weeks. You've got that engagement there for multiple weeks, knowing that people are going to be betting, even if their in-state team or something like that is knocked out. People are still pretty interested. So from that perspective, certainly a good one for operators, and I think a tournament too, where based on some of the upsets, you'll have people maybe betting with their heart in some games, and if the operators can have maybe a higher win rate depending on what happens. I think Arizona-Houston this week's going to be a really interesting game coming up, where the analytical models really like Houston, but you're looking at some of those, I guess, bettors or casual bettors think Arizona might be a better team. So games like that are kind of an interesting test case between Vegas and analytical models, different things like that. So all those will be interesting. We'll see what happens the next few weeks. But, certainly a really big time for the sportsbooks.
Well, I know a lot of people are estimating that this year's tournament can bring in as much as $3 billion in bets. I mean, we're certainly not done with the tournament yet, but could you see it getting to $3 billion or even surpass that mark?
I think so. I think it's one that, they do a nice job with the televising it. It's on. Pretty much every game is on. You can watch it whenever you want. They schedule it out well. I feel like the media coverage is there, and you've also got enough different legal platforms now that people are starting to understand betting a little more, or maybe more willing to do it on these games. So, I think it's definitely one, like New York becoming legalized and having legalized mobile options helps a lot. So I would expect it to be a pretty big handle this year, and it's been an exciting tournament so far, and I'm sure fans have enjoyed placing some wagers on it for sure.
Is that what's driving the estimate? I mean, certainly New York is the game changer, but is it New York plus I think there are over 30 jurisdictions now allowing sports betting. Is that what's driving the $3 billion?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is you've got those different outlets now that people are able to use in a lot of different states. And then, like you had mentioned, New York is obviously a big one. So those are huge. And you've got some people who will even, put some money down. And some of the estimates include like bracket pools as part of betting. So that's certainly a fun one that people have done for a very, very long time, and still one that is engaged with by some people. I think betting and single game betting maybe engages some people more, just because your bracket's pretty easy to get busted on that first Thursday. But with betting, you can stick through the whole tournament and at least convince yourself you got a chance to win some.
Now, you wrote a great article on usbets.com about which sportsbook had the best promos for March Madness. I think that was great because there are so many books out there that is just overwhelming for customers. I'm sitting here in New Jersey, and there's like over 25 sportsbooks that I can choose from, and it's kind of takes too much time to go through everything. What book did you think had some of the best promos and boosts for the tournament?
Yeah, a lot of the major national ones, you look at FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, they all have pretty good, even Caesars and some other ones have some pretty good like sign-up bonuses. So if you're a new user and you have any idea what's going on the basketball court, or even if you don't, you've got a decent chance of making some money there just by taking advantage of the new user promotions. But DraftKings probably had the best like boost of anyone, at least that I saw in the opening rounds, where they boosted Gonzaga money line in the first round against Georgia State to plus 100. There was a limit, I think, of $50 of what you could max bet on that. And it was, I think some people were sweating it for a while. It was actually a close 1-16 matchup, but they ended up winning by about 20. Didn't cover the spread, which I think was 23 or something like that. But easy one to cash there for some people, and definitely an engaging one that I thought was maybe the easiest there, where some of the other bets give you a free bet if you miss your first one or something like that, but that still takes a level of correctly picking a game, whereas this one seemed like a pretty straightforward bet.
I want to ask you about a couple of states that are making news in the sports betting world, and one of those states is Tennessee. I mean, I interviewed Action 24/7 when it first launched, and I have been fascinated with that market ever since. What's the latest coming out of Tennessee?
Yeah, they've done a nice job, and they switched regulators at the start of the year. So they've, I think, done a good job with that. With the lottery was doing it, now it's the sports wagering group there that has a growing staff, and I think they're maybe a little more qualified in some aspects to kind of handle some of the regulatory roles. I think the operators within the state, some of the local ones have been pleased with that transition. I think the national books have kind of gone with a wait-and-see approach before commenting too much. But things are going pretty well in Tennessee, and I think there are a lot of neighboring states around Tennessee that wish they kind of had that mobile-only version where they could put some bets down with multiple national operators. It seems like they've done a nice job here recently of engaging customers and making sure that they have rules that sort of support what the operators are looking for. So it seems like things have done pretty well in that market after, the first few months of kind of getting used to things.
You mentioned one of the interesting things about Tennessee is that they're online only without any retail books. I mean, most states start with retail books, then launch online. Is it possible, given the success of online books in the state, that Tennessee could possibly open retail books in the future, or are they just happy with online? They like the way it's working. Why mess with it?
I think for now they seem pretty content with a lot of the rules and regulations they have in place, but it's one that's certainly interesting. So I live in the Washington, D.C. area, which has struggled a little bit with some of their mobile options, but they have a couple of retail sports books that are pretty awesome. I'd stopped by one that's part of Capital One Arena. It's a Caesars sports book in Capital One Arena, and it's an awesome game day atmosphere. You can, go after a game if the Wizards are playing or something like that and watch, or if it's just, I think I went on a big conference tournament weekend for men's basketball. It was really lively in there. They've got, a bunch of food and drinks and different things. So there is something to be said, I think, in some jurisdictions for a really enjoyable retail betting experience. So I wonder if a state like Tennessee, maybe down the line, will think of if customers want that and, if they feel comfortable offering that in their state. But it's one that's interesting, and I think a lot of consumers are getting to the point where they do like that experience of being able to bet retail. Mobile is still kind of king in terms of the handle and things like that, but there are certainly people who enjoy visiting, whether it's a casino or a sports book and bar or something like that, to place a bet.
When I interviewed Action 24/7 a year ago, I was always wondering, they're a purely local kind of a sports book. They employ people from Tennessee, and, they're just in Tennessee, and I was wondering how they would do against really the big operators. In terms of handle and revenue, is there a top sports book in Tennessee?
I believe it's FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM are still at the top there, but I think Action 24/7 is interesting, where it maybe hasn't made such a huge dent handle-wise, but I think one of the things that's kind of cool is they do cater some of their lines and things like that to people in Tennessee, whereas the national books don't really do that. So I know they've offered like women's basketball lines, which has been really enjoyable for people in Tennessee because the Lady Vols are one of the best teams historically in the country. They're in the Sweet 16 this year. I want to say they might offer, I know some of the local books and some in Arkansas have kind of talked about this too, of offering some college baseball, which I believe you can get some college baseball futures on Action 24/7. And I don't know if they do game by game, but I know some books have started to do that a little bit as well. And, Tennessee, they're really good at baseball and softball. That's an area where people go to those games. They have a passionate fan base. I think people are interested in betting on that as well. So those are kind of the areas where I feel like if you're a local sports book, I guess you could call it, I think that's where you can stand out a little bit. You're maybe not getting a ton of handle off that, but it's certainly one where you can cater to the local customers and provide more of an enjoyable experience than a traditional national operator.
Now, you mentioned Arkansas, and that's another state you wrote about in SportsHandle, and frankly, it's a market I don't know a lot about, so I'm glad I read your article. Fill us in on what's happening in sports betting in Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas is pretty nuts right now with some of the stuff they've got going on. So they've had retail betting at a few casinos, I think, since 2018. They were kind of slow to go with mobile. They approved some rules at the beginning of this year. So right around late February, early March, there was kind of the go-ahead with the rules being approved. I think it was March 4th then casinos within the state were able to launch mobile sports betting apps. But you have to be tied to the casino to launch a mobile sports betting app in Arkansas. And Arkansas actually passed this rule. There was a 51% revenue share rule.
Wow.
So if a BetMGM or a DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever, they wanted to come into Arkansas, they partnered with a casino, and the casino would get 51% of the revenue, which is not standard in most states.
No.
Where the operator, they might be getting 90% in a traditional deal, and at the very least, they have a chance to negotiate with the casinos. That was not really the case here in Arkansas. So March 4th was the first day that different apps, different mobile apps could launch for sports betting mobile apps could launch in Arkansas. And the first one that came out was Betly, but the iOS app is not available yet. The Android app you can get, but you can't get it through the Google Play Store. you have to go into the Betley website and download it. And then you can also use the browser for Betley. Another casino, Saracen Casino, is launching their own app called Bet Saracen. They were really confident. I had multiple, or at least one executive, and I think others had told other outlets that they would definitely launch by March Madness. I'm talking to you guys on the 23rd of March, and Bet Saracen is still not live in any capacity. So you've got some Arkansas consumers who are getting a little upset. I think some have also done some more research now and found this revenue-sharing rule and have gotten a little bit ticked off that, this rule kept out national operators, which realistically, if the national operators are given the go-ahead on March 4th, I think they're prepared by March 23rd at the very least to have their app up and running. So some frustrated people in Arkansas for sure, because they've got this really unique rule that some in the industry have considered to be bad policy, and it's kind of now led to a little bit of a delay here with these like local apps that are kind of struggling to get off the ground. So really interesting to see how that's going to develop, I think.
Well, you mentioned the 51% number. Is that going to keep a lot of national sports betting operators out, or do you think, they're going to figure, hey, look, it's not worth it? I mean, why set up a industry there when we're not just reaping the benefits of it? Or do you think that will be, as we go along, more and more of the usual sports betting operators we see in other states will be jumping into Arkansas?
Yeah, that's what I was really interested in when the rule was implemented. So I talked to some industry sources and some people behind the scenes at those companies, and they've essentially told me, I don't think unless anything changes, there's any chance that BetMGM and DraftKings or FanDuel wants to get into Arkansas, because at that point you're probably not making much money, if any, and it's a lot of work, and you've got to work with casinos that are getting 51% of the revenue. So it seems like, at least for now, it's going to keep those national operators out. So then if you're an Arkansas bettor, I think your hope is that these different local books are able to kind of give you a product similar, and it's kind of hard to know at this point if that's actually going to happen, considering one of the casinos hasn't launched yet, another one wasn't even planning on launching until Q3 or so they're still a few months away, and then the one that has, Southland Casino, with the Betley Sportsbook, only available on some different platforms right now, and there's still some weird things they do with withdrawal and payment methods that makes it a little tricky there. So, yeah, at this point, the national operators don't seem like they're going to get involved in Arkansas, and I think some of the customers are starting to get a little upset as to why that is.
What was the reasoning behind the 51% number? I mean, look, I heard they were doing 51% after New York came out with their sports betting, and they were getting 51%. I mean, no offense to Arkansas, New York's a little different in terms of population density and things like that. But what was the reasoning for Arkansas to really put this barrier up for the national sportsbook operators?
Yeah, I mean, they thought they could do it. They thought it was something that, and obviously it'll benefit the casinos, and I think that was kind of the logic was, hey, like, we think we can do this by ourselves if we need to and still offer a fair product, and why not get a huge cut of the revenue if we're able to do it. So certainly interesting from that perspective. Also interesting that the Racing Commission, which regulates sports betting in Arkansas, approved that rule unanimously and then was able to move on through another couple legislative bodies and get approved. So yeah, I think the logic essentially was, hey, we think we can do this. And if it keeps the big books out, whatever, we can do our own thing. And we've kind of been preparing for it for a while. I think over the next few months and years, it'll be interesting to see if they do it correctly and if people like it. Obviously, looking at a DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, for the most part, they've got a good interface and they don't crash all that much, and they're able to, work at a high level that customers like. So if you can do that, and a Bet Saracen, for example, if they're not able to do that, I wonder if they would consider going to the Racing Commission and asking for a changed rule. But at this point, the casinos seem confident that they believe they're able to provide a product that's going to be similar.
Another state you wrote about in SportsHandle and whose citizens have been waiting for mobile sports betting is Maryland. What's going on with Maryland, and when do you think they will have mobile sports betting up and ready?
Yeah, so the people kind of in charge there, some people in the lottery, and then the SWORC, which is one of the groups that handles some of this stuff, they've continued to kind of say they're aiming for the start of the NFL season. So you're looking maybe September of 2022. I think the interesting thing there is they're waiting for a disparity study because they have a lot of different language in the law that allows for diversity and inclusion among the operators, whether it's mobile or retail. Mm-hmm. So they're waiting for some more information from a disparity study. They kind of joke around at some of their meetings because they've been talking about the disparity study since, I think, like late 2021, and then here in March they've just finally started the disparity study. So they move very slowly. When they do make things happen, it tends to go fairly well. They've got a few retail locations that are up and running within the state, and I think their thought is that once they do get mobile up, even though it might take a little longer, they're going to have a diverse group of mobile platforms. They can go up to 60 mobile licenses, which is kind of wild. I don't think they'll go all the way to 60, but they're aiming that they'll launch mobile at some point in September. But given how long the disparity study has taken, I have my doubts about that actually being a feasible time frame.
I'm always curious why a state is slow in launching mobile betting. I mean, the lawmakers have a lot of examples from other states to see what rules and regulations work and don't work. And I know the sportsbook operators have been doing mobile betting in a lot of states for a lot of years, so setup is not that difficult for them. So I guess the timeline for Maryland is they have to do the study and then they're shooting for September. Is that what I'm hearing from Maryland?
Sounds like the study's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay.
So it started, I believe, now in March. Sounds like it might take a couple of months. And then once they have the study, they then have to kind of come up with some additional guidelines for the application process for a mobile license and things like that. So based on how they did retail, which is pretty slow too, it certainly sounds like they're, multiple months away. And it's interesting because I think, they're trying to do right by different owners and stakeholders within the betting industry, but there's also, I think, definitely an element where they've probably been on the slower end of what they could have done at times, and I think some customers have gotten a little frustrated, and I think putting a long-term time frame was not a bad idea, saying September, because no one's going to get overly upset in February and March when you're estimating multiple months away. I do think it'll be interesting to see if they don't hit the start of NFL season. You've got a bunch of, Ravens fans and things like that who are probably going to start to get a little more frustrated as it gets closer to the start of the NFL season.
Well, I want to ask you about another place you wrote about in SportsHandle and a place where you're sitting in right now, and that's Washington, D.C. It's a fascinating sports betting scene down in Washington, the good, the bad, and I like what they're doing in their the stadiums and the arenas, but then the mobile's a little funky, I guess. What's the latest coming out of Washington, D.C., and how are they doing during the NCAA tournament time?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting setup with DC where you've got there's one retail book at a restaurant, but it does pretty low in terms of handle and things like that. But some of the major players, you've got Caesars, which is a Capital One arena, and you can bet on an app within a 2-block radius of Capital One arena. So convenient, I guess, if you live right near.
Have you tested the how far away you can go while betting? I mean, do you know which streets you can stop at and bet, and then take one more step, and then you can't bet anymore?
I haven't as much yet. That's on my list of things to do, because you've also got the same setup with BetMGM at Nats Park.
Yeah.
So I think come opening day for baseball, I think I'm going to head over there and test the 2-block radius and see how far I can stray away from the stadium and bet. But
you should make a mark on the pavement. Past here, you can't bet.
Should label it for people, put a sign up or something.
Yeah,
exactly. But it's pretty interesting because those two retail locations have done fairly well, and around those areas have done well because they're well-known apps. And then you've got a lottery-run app called Gambit DC, which has had a bunch of issues from interface errors to bad odds. They have a bunch of things that just can kind of add up in terms of being inconvenient. So for me, I'll occasionally place bets on the PGA Tour. And if I'm doing that on DraftKings in Virginia, for example, it's pretty easy to find Brooks Koepka to finish in the top 20 or something like that. If you're doing it on Gambit DC, you have to scroll through every player in the field to win, to get a top 5, to get a top 10, and then you can find top 20. So it takes you minutes just to find the bet you're looking for. So stuff like that can really add up as just being all right, this is a waste of my time, especially if you're me and you're not placing massive bets. So that's certainly something that is interesting. They also had an app malfunction during the Super Bowl. So at 4 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday, for about 24 hours, the app went down. and it turns out that the mobile app provider forgot or didn't properly get a certificate approval from Apple,
Okay.
which is obviously horrible timing.
Wow.
On that, and the the DC Lottery kind of came out and given a report that this is something that like they absolutely should have been able to do and handle prior to this, but they waited too long to put in the request for the renewal, and if you don't get that renewal, it can then lead to your app going offline. So the iOS app was down for the entirety of the Super Bowl, which obviously upset some people. And then they had given out to angry customers a $10 free bet, but I believe that free bet had to be used during the Super Bowl, so you would have had to use the browser, like on your computer, to place it. Otherwise, if you were trying to do it on the app, your app would have, by the time your app came back on, the free bet was unavailable to you. So things like that don't make a lot of sense. And now the DC Council is kind of, put some questions out about whether or not it's time to revisit Gambit DC and how it's doing. That was given out. The mobile app provider Intralot was given sole source contract, so there was no competitive bidding during that time. It was just given this massive contract without much competition or any competition, and it's proven to be a little bit inconsistent at best. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on for sure, because I think if you're Caesars or BetMGM and DC tells you can expand outside the 2-block radius, you would gladly do so. It's just a matter of if that'll actually be possible in the future.
I'm curious about the physical places where you can bet in Washington, D.C., namely the restaurant and the stadiums. I know a restaurant in Pennsylvania just started sports betting with they actually have, I thought they were going to have kiosks, but no, they actually have windows you can walk up to and place a bet. And the New York just has legislation to possibly put sports books in the stadiums and the arenas. How has the reaction been with betting at the restaurant and betting at the arenas?
I think people, for the most part, have enjoyed it. I know when the Nats announced it, there was some people in their Twitter mentions that were like, "Why would you put, gambling with my baseball?" Like they didn't want it to kind of interfere, I guess, with the game that they loved or things like that. But the one that's at Nats Park, it's outside the stadium. You can see it if you're entering like the center field gate, but you don't actually have access to the arena. I think there are also some rules with the one at Capital One Arena with Caesars, where I'm not sure you're allowed to bet like on the Wizards if the Wizards have a home game and you're in the stadium or something. There's certainly some unique rules there in terms of what's actually allowed. But I think people have kind of embraced the atmosphere at those places. It seems like, an enjoyable thing to do. You can still use your app within that venue. So I think that's convenient for those two spots. You don't necessarily have to go to the kiosk, but you can go to a kiosk or up to a window, things like that. And I think those, you kind of know what you're getting when you go in. So you're getting a lot of the company branding and things like that. But you're also getting essentially an enjoyable sports bar experience. You just have a chance to also place some bets there.
Bennett, we're running out of time, but can you give us a website where we can read your articles and give out your social media address so people can keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So SportsHandle.com is where most of my work will be. That's where a lot of it is. And then US Bets is the other site that I'll be on a lot, and that's usbets.com. So both pretty straightforward there. And then my Twitter handle, I tend to tweet most of my links and articles, things like that. That's at Bennett Conlin, so BENNETTCONLIN. So a lot of double letters in the first name, and you get that in there, you'll have the right Twitter handle.
Bennett Conlin from USBets.com, SportsHandle, and Better Collective. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us an update about what's going on with sports betting around the country. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, it seems like news has been breaking nonstop. So thanks for coming on and giving us an update. Hope to have you back on real soon.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
With Drizzly, I can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes.
Drizzly also lets me shop from multiple stores in my area and compare prices on thousands of products.
Ding dong, Drizzly.
We'll get back to the show in a few moments, but I just wanted to take some time and tell everyone about Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service.
Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country. They feature over 2,000 specialty coffee blends, all at your fingertips at beangenius.com. Here's how it works. Head on over to beangenius.com and take their palate profiler test to find out what coffee best fits your taste. Then select from a variety of subscription plans. Every subscription comes with free shipping, and delivery can even be scheduled for once or twice each month. And based upon your review of each coffee blend you try, Bean Genius actually learns your individual taste preferences and then suggests future coffee blends for you. And now you can get 10% off your Bean Genius subscription when you use our promo code PIKE at checkout. Bean Genius offers a variety of subscription plans to suit any coffee lover's needs. Subscribe with Bean Genius today and start enjoying some of the best tasting coffee around. And save 10% off your coffee plan with promo code PIKE.
It's a casino. People gotta win sometime.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a giant, colorful check to deposit.
Beatin The House is brought to you by BetMGM Casino. Play your favorite casino games at BetMGM Online Casino. Slots, table games, live dealer games, everything you love about Atlantic City and Vegas, all online at BetMGM. Don't wait. Join in the fun now. Go to BetMGM Casino, create an account using our promo code Turnpike, and become a verified player. New players get $25 free when signing up, plus a first deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's promo code Turnpike at BetMGM.com for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus $25 free. Grab a lion's share of the fun at BetMGM.com. Must be 21 years or older to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And welcome to this week's edition of Beatin The House, where we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different slot wins. We've got we've actually got a progressive blackjack jackpot to talk about today. We've got a couple of Virginia lottery stories to hit. We have even a new casino jackpot to talk about.
Last couple of weeks we've had Pai Gow Poker. Any Pai Gow Poker this week? Or it's been a slow week for Pai Gow
I want to
Poker.
joke around with you and say yes, but no, we do not have any
No,
Pai Gow
slow
Poker.
week for Pai Gow Poker players, huh?
But we do have a repeat customer in terms of a casino.
Oh, okay.
Just last week, we talked about the California Hotel and Casino.
Yes, yeah. I remember saying I have no clue where that is in Las Vegas. And I still have no clue.
And it
where
was
it is
dealing
in
with
Las
a
Vegas.
Hawaiian tourist.
Well, Vegas must be a big tourist destination for Hawaiian citizens, because I'm hearing a lot of Hawaiian citizens winning big at these casinos in Vegas.
Well, we are going to be talking about another Hawaiian citizen.
All right.
Lucky player from Hawaii. I think that's all that exists in Hawaii,
Yeah,
are lucky
right.
players. Hit a jackpot of more than $1.3 million at the California Hotel and Casino.
Wow.
Michelle M. playing the Wheel of Fortune slot machine.
Wheel of Fortune again.
Yep.
It's one of those ones that always pays out. Was it Wheel of Fortune, Monopoly, Divine Fortune?
Well, Divine Fortune's online.
Online.
Yes,
But if you want to play an online slot that pays a lot, it's Divine Fortune.
Yes.
But Wheel of Fortune and Monopoly, always.
Well, this is the first one I'm seeing in a while that was done at a reasonable hour for old people like us. 11:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
She was playing around 11:30 a.m., made a $5 bet.
Wow, okay.
Hit the progressive jackpot totaling $1.316 million.
She had a good lunch, huh?
Oh, yeah. $1,316,725,000.
Wow.
$316,725.
Off a $5 bet, huh?
Off a $5 bet.
$5 bet.
Wheel of Fortune jackpot is the third won by a Hawaiian resident at a Boyd Gaming downtown Vegas property this year alone.
Wow. Good.
Now, we talked about last week, it was a Hawaiian visitor at the California. She actually won 2 jackpots in one sitting. Nothing like this. It was a 10 and a 20.
Oh, yeah.
So she won total of $30,000.
Which, by the way, I'd be very happy with.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be very happy with
But this
the
was the
30,000.
third major jackpot in 2022 at Boyd Gaming casinos in Vegas.
I got to find this place. I have no idea where California Hotel and Casino is.
The California Hotel is a little off strip.
Okay, all right.
But the other jackpot was $1.1 million and then $275,000, both at the Fremont.
Okay.
So the Fremont had 2 of the 3.
I know where the Fremont is. I just got to find where the California Hotel and Casino is.
But again, this is, and also it's the third Wheel of Fortune jackpot. These are all on the Wheel of Fortune
Told
machines.
you, Wheel of Fortune.
So congratulations to our visitors from Hawaii. You seem to have all the luck all of a sudden.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to go from the California Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas all the way across the country to our first entry ever from the Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut.
Ah, okay. Actually, no offense to Foxwoods. I really like Mohegan Sun a lot better.
Actually Mohegan Sun actually almost looks like an Atlantic City casino.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe we have a little bit of
Foxwoods is like almost in a mall.
Yeah, it is a mall.
Yeah, one of the biggest. Car park spot. What do they call them? We call them indoor parking in New Jersey, the parking garage. Okay. But one of the biggest parking garages I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no, and they're expanding even more. I know they've even talked about...
This is at Foxwoods, by the way.
That's at Foxwoods. Foxwoods even talked about doing something like an RV park for a while. So, but anyway, back to Mohegan Sun. This was in Mohegan Sun's Casino of the Sky.
Okay.
Because they separate all the different casinos.
Yeah, I think, what do they do them by?
Sky, land, wind.
Something like that,
they do the Native American theme.
Yeah.
Which is really cool inside. They have a night sky up in the ceiling. A Wethersfield resident by the name of Jason Hunter won $235,000 when he hit the Super 4 Progressive Blackjack jackpot at the casino.
That's great.
And I like what the press release even mentioned, because we talk about this all the time. When you go to an actual casino instead of doing the online casinos, gas. They immediately said this Wethersfield resident more than covered his gas bill.
Yeah, I guess so.
So $235,000. He got the Super 4 Progressive Blackjack jackpot. I took a look back at our previous episodes of Beatin The House. We did have a Super 4 Progressive Blackjack jackpot done down in Philly.
Okay, all right.
But again, for people who are not familiar with Super 4 Progressive Blackjack jackpots, the Super 4 Progressive Blackjack involves making a base blackjack wager and an optional Super 4 Progressive Blackjack side bet.
It's all about the side bet.
It's all about side. Pai Gow is the same way.
Side bets. That's where you make your money, the side bets.
This is actually kind of complicated.
Okay.
When you do this side bet.
If I have to think long and hard about it, I'm probably not playing it.
Maybe when you actually play it a couple of times, you get used to it again, or you get more and more, it's common for you. But when you do the side bet, players combine their cards with the dealer's cards to create a 4-card poker hand.
Okay.
If the dealer shows ace up, everyone playing wins.
All right.
If the dealer has blackjack, the Super 4 bonus will pay the odds. And a royal flush, diamonds, actually it is set up as diamonds this time. Okay. A royal flush of diamonds won the top progressive jackpot, which is what he got.
See, that's something I'd have to play a couple of times, because
I'd have to play several times.
The first couple of times I wouldn't know the rules.
No, it's something it's a side bet where you actually have to play it a couple of times, maybe more. Sure. Actually, even I know if you go to some of these casinos, like the one in Philly that had this, I think it was Rivers. You go to their website and they have the rules.
Good, yeah.
Study the rules before you try some of these side bets.
Well, some of the casinos, they give you lessons. So that might. I don't know if they give you lessons on this kind of stuff. They might give you lessons on the basic games, but I don't know if they give you lessons on stuff like this.
I don't think one lesson would help me to play this, because I'd still be kind of confused after I did the side bet. After the side bet, I'd be done, because I don't know what to do after that to poker the 4-card poker hand. Going back over to Vegas, we have the Rio.
Okay.
We've had the Rio a couple times.
Yep.
According to a press release from the Rio, and I want to thank them for sending it over to us, a lucky winner at the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino earned a jackpot of $165,872.
Nice.
The guest, who chose to stay anonymous, played a high card flush that let him win the jackpot.
Okay.
This was a table game of... actually, they didn't even say what the table game was in the press release. That's kind of sad. But it was a table game. I think it was a 3-card poker table game or something like that. But it was the second time the guest has played the game.
Wow.
So
see, that's great. I don't have luck like that.
I don't have any kind of luck.
I don't have any luck like that.
I don't have anything like that. But congratulations to the Rio winner there.
Great, yeah.
Going back to the Sweet 16, we had a quick parlay in New Jersey, Caesar Sportsbook.
All right.
Better turned $1,500 into $38,669.
Nice.
He went 4 for 4 on the Sweet 16 games. He did Houston money line, Arkansas money line, Duke and Villanova, both money lines.
Yeah, good
You got
move.
the Final Four. And now we're going back over to Vegas. I should have organized these a little bit better. Instead of going back and forth. I'm giving myself
keep it
whiplash
one area
here.
of the country.
Boulder Station Casino. Another Stations Casino. We have the Omaha Bad Beat Progressive hit again at the Boulder Station Casino. Total payout was $83,392.
Now, is this one of the Stations casinos where everyone? Is it the poker room where everyone wins the?
No,
it's not. Okay, what is it?
Well, other
they
players,
do have a pretty cool bad beat in their poker room.
For this one, they phrased it differently than what they've done in the past.
Okay,
so I'm assuming this was a different type of bad beat jackpot that was going on.
Okay,
let me go through it with you. Boulder Station, Omaha, it was Omaha, not just the Hold'em,
okay.
so that may be the difference there too. Omaha Bad Beat was triggered when a 10-high straight flush beat an 8-high straight flush.
Wow, okay.
Winning hand won $16,681. Losing hand, $33,361. As always, the losing hand is actually the winner.
Yeah.
And they get 50% of the progressive jackpot. The other one gets 25%, and then the other 58 qualifying players. And I don't know exactly how they had to be playing, what they were playing to qualify for this. They won $575 each.
See, that'd be cool for me. I mean, if I'm in a poker room and someone else gets the bad beat jackpot and I get like $500 just for sitting in the room, that's awesome. I love that.
And Boulder Station has already reset.
Because station casinos, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, station casinos used to like pay out to all their poker rooms.
Different ones, different bad beats.
Different bad beats, huh?
Yeah,
so you have to have
Omaha.
a certain bad beat.
Well, this is Omaha,
Omaha
different game.
bad beat.
This is a different game. But this one, they reset it to 20,000.
Okay.
And they changed the qualifying hand.
Oh, okay.
The qualifying hand is 4 jacks beaten for this next bad beat progressive jackpot.
Wow.
So you got to get four jacks. You got to beat 4 jacks.
See, that'd be a weird thing.
Or you have to have 4 jacks beat.
I mean, you're sitting in the poker room and you get 4 jacks and you're thinking, do I want to win this hand or do I want to lose this hand? So it's a weird thing if you get 4 jacks and you're in the Boulder Station poker room. So
I don't know how you would strategize.
Yeah, I don't know.
So.
I'd be that'd be a head scratcher for me.
All right, we're going back over to the East Coast.
All right,
Virginia. We have a couple Virginia lottery stories to hit. A Suffolk, Virginia woman had won $100 playing a Virginia lottery scratcher game. A week later, she won another $100.
Wow.
Then another week later, she won another $200. She was still feeling lucky, so she got another scratcher at the Suffolk Sunoco on Goldwyn Boulevard and bought a white ice crossword 5 times ticket.
Okay.
Now, I've seen this scratcher from the Virginia Lottery because, they're part of, sponsorships with some of the shows we do.
Okay.
This is a huge ticket. It's like, physically huge.
I mean, it's not $1, right?
No, it's not $1.
Okay.
No. Luckily, the ticket turned out to be a $100,000 winner.
So she won 4 jackpots in 4 weeks.
Give or take
4
a couple
lottery
of days. Yeah, four
jackpots in
jackpots.
4.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
man.
So
good for her. Hey,
yeah,
that's great.
She won the 5th of 6 $100,000 prizes in the crossword 5 times series. They've got one more to go, and once that's done,
well, hopefully she plays that
ends.
one. I hope she's playing that one. So
give somebody else a chance.
No, keep going, keep going. Play every week. What the hell? What a streak that is.
That's an incredible streak. I mean,
I've
100,
never heard
100,
of a streak
200
for the lottery. She's on a heater for a lottery, really?
And I don't
Unbelievable.
know. It's kind of weird because they didn't mention if she was playing the same game over and over. So,
hey, whatever strategy she's using, keep doing it.
I know the big one was a different game than what she was playing before because they made a point of saying she got that ticket. So
that's good instincts.
Next, we're going to stay with the Virginia Lottery because we got another funny one here.
Okay.
It's not funny because a woman was suffering from a headache.
Okay.
She went into the store to buy some Tylenol. While she was at the Newport News Food Mart to get the Tylenol, she also, while waiting in line, bought a 10 times the money ticket.
Wow.
She looked at it, and according to the press release, she had to switch glasses to read it clearly. That's something I've been noticing a lot of people having to deal with glasses. And she found out she had won the $100,000 prize.
And she forgot all about her headache.
Headache went right away.
What a headache cure that is, huh?
Tell me about it.
Wow.
But she was only in the store to get the Tylenol because the headache was bad enough that she had to stay home from work.
Wow.
So I guess a migraine led to $100,000
I guess.
jackpot.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And our last story does come from the Virginia Lottery again. And
wow. What's going on with the Virginia Lottery?
This one is because a guy had a sweet tooth. He ran into the Express Mart, another Express Mart, by the way, to get a candy bar. And while he was there, he bought a Lucky Numbers super ticket.
Look at these impulse buys.
Yes.
Good for them.
And he scratched the ticket, and he won $500,000.
Wow.
And I just am
buy
amazed.
more candy.
I'm just amazed the impulse buying. You're right.
Good. Hey, stand in line with you're waiting there. What the hell?
That's what
get
the lottery is there for.
Get a ticket.
Might as well get a ticket. You never know, and that's what they want you to do, and that's the way to actually play. Don't go in expecting anything, and just congratulations to all our winners this week.
Absolutely.
As always, keep the press releases coming in. Lottery agencies, casinos, poker rooms, whatever. Send in your press releases, info@turnpikesportsradio.com, and we'll continue doing the segment, and also continuing to envy every single one of these people that just happen to get lucky every so often. But congratulations to all our winners.
The book report is next, so stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. The Turnpike Sports Book Report is brought to you by BorgataSports.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sports book. Available anywhere in New Jersey, BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE, that's P-I-K-E. Make your first wager of $20 or more and you'll get $100 in free bets. That's $100 in free bets when your first wager on Borgata Sports is $20 or more. Get into the action with BorgataSports.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Turnpike Sports Book Report. We're going to be talking about the state and national sports betting numbers that have been coming out over the past week. We got a bunch of launches to talk about, Colorado, Virginia, even some more some news coming with Canada's launch today on April 4th.
Yeah, that's a big day in Canada.
That's going to be fun to watch, see how that goes.
If you're a gambler in Canada, this is your Independence Day, Christmas Day, whatever holiday, we're all wrapped up into one. It's everything.
I don't know if you want to call it, independence in terms of the independent operator, sure.
I'm just talking about the celebratory mood of it, kind of thing.
We've got also some legislative updates, especially a Massachusetts legislative survey for sports betting.
A survey, okay.
Of senators.
Okay.
So, because everyone's wondering why Massachusetts has not.
Well, simply put, everyone
betting.
wants it in Massachusetts, but a few people don't, and they're the few people that, I guess, have the loudest voice, and, and there's no sports betting in Massachusetts. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, we'll go through
soon.
the numbers when we get to that point in the show here.
Yeah.
Also, we got a bunch of deals to talk about. PointsBet, we've got Genius Sports, we've got a Pala interactive deal with Boyd to talk about, if we have time, some other deals that happened as well. Let's start off with numbers. And every week, I think we're starting off almost just about every week talking about New York.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
According to the last figures, and this is for the week ending March 25th, this is up to that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
New York has gone over the $1 billion mark in online sports betting handle in each of its first 3 months in business.
Pretty impressive.
January was 1.67, February 1.53 billion, and March was just 1.15 billion. Do you see a decrease happening, or am I kind of nuts here?
Yeah. I mean, that's, certainly it's happening. I mean, I guess fall would be the biggest time for sports betting, and it kind of culminates in like big January numbers, and February seems to be kind of sliding down a little bit. But I guess that's the trend.
It's going to be very curious.
Don't get us wrong; the New York numbers are really strong.
They're
absolutely incredible. I guess the next state we're waiting for, which will be a game changer, is possibly California. I guess
that may not
kind
happen
of getting closer.
For a while. That's little by little they're getting.
It
there.
might be on the November ballot in California,
unless the lawsuit affects it. That's going on there.
We'll see. That's the next big state.
Yeah, but staying in New York, I'm very curious to see how this market handles the baseball season. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be starting up soon. Football, they're going to set records all over again when football starts up again. But right now, at the end of the week ending March 25th, it was also reported that FanDuel became the first mobile operator in the state to reach $100 million in revenue.
That's impressive.
That's very impressive because I don't think FanDuel has done that in
and
too
what
many
was,
other states.
January 8th? That's
January
when everything
8th.
started
Yes.
in New York?
And this isn't even the full amount of March we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they hit the $100 million mark in revenue. DraftKings, I think we talked about this in the last book report. We didn't have the numbers handy because we taped before the numbers came out. But again, confirming it, DraftKings became the third New York mobile sports betting operator to hit the $1 billion handle mark.
Okay.
We've got FanDuel, had $1.5 billion, $1.55 billion. That actually almost matches the January handle for the entire mobile industry. But FanDuel, $1.55 billion in handle. Caesars, New York, had $1.14 billion, and DraftKings, at the time of this report, was about $1.06, $1.1 billion in handle.
Okay.
I mean, New York is just a juggernaut right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The 8 New York online bookmakers have combined for a $4.35 billion handle statewide.
Impressive. Very impressive.
It's an incredible amount of money that's coming in. So $4 billion in 3 months. I guess you can say 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So kind of interesting numbers. I noticed there are some shifting in terms of who's 1, 2, and 3. I'm waiting to see where Caesars ends up when BetMGM hits its full stride.
Okay.
Because right now it's still FanDuel, DraftKings number 1 and number 2. Caesars began the entire industry number 1 for the first 2-3 weeks.
They were advertising everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere.
And when they cut down the blitz, ad blitz.
Yeah. Everything kind of settled. Everything.
They actually have gone from first, second down to third. We'll see exactly where they end up when everything really starts to settle. I still think this market's too new, and we're going to see some more shifting positions. Yeah. I'm very curious to see Rush Street, see where they end up with all this, especially after the Francesa deal. I wonder if that's going to.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. I think we talked about this last week.
Yes.
It was Francesa's doing a podcast for him.
He's doing a twice-weekly podcast as
Mike
well as
Francesa.
appearances.
Yeah.
Well, hey, he's got a big following in the New York,
New
Jersey,
hey, I grew up with
area.
him. I grew up listening to him. So absolutely.
And with Rush Street having all 4 states there, you got Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible listener base he's got in that region alone.
Sure, should do well.
So we'll see exactly if that boosts RSI at all. Going over to Nevada, we'll hit some more numbers here. February marked the first time in the post-PASPA era that Nevada sportsbooks were held under a 5% hold rate for 3 consecutive months.
Huh, okay.
I've never heard of Nevada having that low a hold rate before for that long a time here. I mean, avoid the COVID months. Don't count those.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see Nevada in, I don't want to call it a slump.
No. It just,
The handle is great.
The market is realigning itself. I guess that's what marketers are telling people.
If you want to say it that way, that's fine.
Yeah. So.
All-time gross gaming operator revenue. This is for everybody, not just sports betting, but overall. $8 billion in the post-PASPA era.
Okay, this is national, right?
No, this is Nevada.
Oh, did Nevada? Okay.
Their gross gaming sports betting operator revenue surpassed $8 billion in since May of 2018.
Okay.
So the new era of sports betting, if you want to call it that. And also with Nevada's February report, overall gaming. February marks the 12th straight month of $1+ billion gaming revenue. And that's everything. Right. That's slots, that's table games, that's sports betting, that's a whole bunch of every aspect of the gaming industry. $1 billion or more, 12 straight months.
Okay.
That's an incredible run right there
as
well.
No, it's great.
Had some other numbers coming in from some of the other states. I just want to hit a couple of highlights here. Colorado, they're in the middle of their fiscal year. They're 8 months into their fiscal year. They just passed the $3.2 billion mark in total handle for the state.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredible number. They may hit probably another $5 million by the time this fiscal year is over. I know they did $5 million last fiscal year.
Oh yeah, no, Colorado's a great market. I mean, don't they now? I think someone told me that they now have the most sports books in their state.
As a matter of fact, it's a launch that we are going to be talking about.
Oh,
Might as well talk about it right now. Tie it all together.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Betson launch its mobile app sportsbook in Colorado. BetSafe.
Okay,
that's the name of the brand they're using in Colorado.
So what number is that now?
That is the 26th book.
Okay, and that's got to be
most in any state.
Most in any state. Okay.
Also, part of the release from this month for February, Colorado released their Super Bowl numbers.
Okay.
$41 million handle for the Super Bowl.
All right.
30% more than the previous year.
Good.
And as always, when we talk about Colorado, there's one sport we always hit.
Okay, get it over with. But table tennis, is that what we're talking about?
Table tennis.
Table tennis. What are they? Number
7.
7. Okay, last month or 2 months ago they were 6.
Before
they were 5.
Last month in January, I believe they were 8th.
Okay, all right.
But before that, they were 5th and 6th.
5th and 6th. I don't get it. Hey, if they like betting on table tennis, whatever, good for them. I can't get into it. So.
The table tennis handle for the month of February was $7.2 million.
Okay.
99% of that was online.
Okay.
And I was looking at the list of the top sports. Basketball was the leader, an overall handle. But when you look down the list, you get to ice hockey, which is number 5. You have tennis, number 6.
Okay.
Table tennis, number 7. And then you have NCAA football betting.
I guess the futures and stuff.
I guess
like
so.
That,
it was about 50,000 under table tennis. So table tennis beat out NCAA football in February.
Well, it's February, so.
Yeah, I guess you can. Yeah. One note to hit right before we move on to some of the other launches and also talk about Canada. The USFL has confirmed that you can bet on the league in 15 states.
Okay.
The list, if you want it.
Okay,
I
want to know if I can bet on it in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
All right.
Pennsylvania.
Great. Perfect. Awesome.
Nevada, Iowa, West Virginia, Oregon, Delaware, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and North Dakota. Do you see one state that's obviously missing?
Well, we were just talking about it, the one with the most sports books. I don't see Colorado. Is that what you're talking about? Because I'm looking at for Colorado. I don't see Colorado on that list.
I was thinking New York.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Well, I think
I mean, they have another month right now to get everything on. So New York and Colorado may be jumping on that list.
I'm just very curious to see if actually New York allows USFL betting, because otherwise, do you really see New York bettors going to New Jersey to bet USFL?
Probably not. But
I don't think it's going to really affect anything.
Is there even a New York team? There's a New Jersey team. I don't think there's a New York team.
There's a New Jersey and a Philly team, but I don't know if there's a New York. I don't even know if there's an upstate New York. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah,
there never was one before.
But like I said, there's another month before USFL starts, so I'm sure more states are going to be added there.
Well, we'll just see. What happens with New York. I'm assuming New York, and I think, did I say Arizona in that list? Arizona did not. I
did not see Arizona. I don't see Washington D.C.
Interesting. I hate to say it this way, but who cares about D.C.?
Oh wow. Well, people in D.C. care.
Well,
about
they
DC.
Go to Virginia to bet.
Well, is it Virginia is not on
there either.
So
I just saw that list.
There
okay.
You go. So.
All right. Well, there are a couple states got to get off their duffs and get some USFL betting on the books for their. I don't know how big an impact the USFL is going to have on the betting industry, though.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's something to pass the time.
Speaking of Virginia, we have the 14th sportsbook launching in Virginia.
Okay.
Hard Rock Sportsbook has been given the go live order in Virginia, so they're now up and running.
Okay.
That's 14 books in Virginia. They're online only.
Wow, 14, really?
14.
Oh, all right.
So Virginia is slowly expanding, growing, whatever you want to call it. Still got a long way to go to catch up to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Colorado over there with the 26.
Yeah, Colorado is leading.
I think New Jersey's somewhere between 20 and 23.
I don't know.
New Jersey's not far behind Colorado.
I honestly haven't sat down and counted the amount of sports books in New Jersey, so it's a lot. It's a lot. It's confusing. I have a lot in my phone.
Oh, yeah.
I have to check to see how many I have on my phone.
I'm running out of memory on my phone to run these things.
Yeah.
Before we move on to, I want to get to the legislative survey in Massachusetts because it's just fun to talk about that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Canada launched today, April 4th.
Yeah.
In Ontario, and this was actually a very, very smart thing the Ontario Gaming Commission did. The Responsible Gambling Council announced that its RG Check accreditation program is now part of the requirements for any sportsbook or any sportsbook platform to launch.
Good.
In the state.
Good.
Most states don't have this as part of their
when you say states,
requirements.
You mean provinces?
I'm talking about anywhere. I'm
anywhere.
talking about compared to U.S. Compared to U.S. They
okay.
don't have this kind of setup
most
of the time in terms of responsible gambling. This is becoming a really big issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially with March here ending.
Well, look, Paul Burns is going to come on the show pretty soon. He's going
to talk about all these things.
From Canada. He's the top,
president of the Canadian Gaming Association.
I was going to say the top gambling poobah.
He's one of them.
Should I introduce him like that?
You want to? That's fine with me. That's
probably
up
the last
to him.
time he comes on the show.
But again, we got a whole bunch of sports books and sports betting platforms launching. I think we got about 30 entities. Just recently, when I was preparing for this, we had Kindred announced they got a license. Let's see. We have FSB received approval. We have Rush Street Interactive saying not only are they launching, but they are the first sports betting entity to receive that RG Check iGaming accreditation from the Gaming Council.
Yeah, the great thing about Canada is it's not only sports betting.
No, it's iGaming.
iGaming, it's poker.
Yes.
It's online poker. Yep. Oh, my God, online poker. Believe it or not.
And we have, like I said, Kindred got it. They're going to have Unibet up there for both casino and sports betting.
Yep.
Sport Radar announced that they did receive their licensing.
Good.
To launch in Canada. So it's going to be almost a fully formed sports betting industry in Ontario. It's going to mirror like some of these other, like New Jersey, Colorado.
I keep, in my interviews, people from Canada, I mean, what's the hot spot in gambling in Canada? And they all say it's Ontario. Yeah, it's Ontario. I'm not going to say it's the Vegas of the North, but no. You know, it's a pretty big area if you're a sports bettor or an iGamer or whatever you call it yourself.
Again, this is going to be a very interesting market to watch. I wonder if Ontario is going to be comparable to what they're thinking California is going to be like.
Who knows?
I mean, I saw what some people referred to
this
California
market,
as the holy grail of sports betting.
Holy grail of
I
sports
don't know
betting.
how accurate that statement is. I think New York may be the better.
It's the most populous state.
It's also got the most professional sports teams that are going to be running their own sports betting entities. So, again, we'll see exactly. But I wonder if Ottawa is going to be an indication of what California is going to be like.
Well, it's such a new market. It's I mean, in its infancy. So in Canada, so we'll see how it grows.
Well, now, do you want to have fun and talk about Massachusetts and why these guys just can't get sports betting launched?
Yeah.
I still don't understand.
Yeah, I guess you can talk about it. I mean, it's not worth a lot of breath because they're not really doing anything.
I have to admit, I thought doing a legislative survey was actually a very smart idea. But after seeing these results, I am more confused than ever as to why this hasn't passed yet.
Okay.
According to the Massachusetts State House News Service, they did a survey of all the senators in the state. 60% of state senators support legalizing Massachusetts sportsbooks.
Yeah, of course.
24 senators support legalizing sports betting. 8 said they were either undecided, non-committal, or had no comment. And none of them responded that they were opposed to legalizing sports betting in the state. That doesn't make any sense that they can't get it passed.
Massachusetts is the corporate headquarters for DraftKings, so I'm very surprised that this hasn't moved a little quicker in Massachusetts, and I don't even see it moving
moving at all in Massachusetts. You can do all the surveys you want, but unless the bill gets passed and by both houses and signed by the governor, nothing's going to happen.
Well,
and I don't see it happening either.
It's one of those things where I just don't understand the Senate itself. I mean, there's got to be some kind of motivation for some of these senators not to want to talk about it, not to want to vote on it, not to want to agree upon anything with it.
Yeah.
And they're losing out on so much money with New Hampshire, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island.
In a couple
Even
years,
Maine is moving forward.
In a couple of years, they're going to have to do it. I mean, right now they're almost surrounded by states with sports betting. So, and they're losing money. And
yes.
I think there was another survey you told me, I think it was New Hampshire, that I don't know how many percentage of the people that were betting on the Super Bowl or March Madness were actually from Massachusetts who had to drive to New Hampshire.
I think it was like 26% of those betting up in New Hampshire.
That's a lot of money.
Massachusetts
That's
addresses.
money that Massachusetts is losing. So,
well, again, if they want to, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it.
Whatever.
You can't force somebody to vote some way, but I would think they'd want to stay away from losing all this money.
All right, we'll see.
Said a couple deals before we get out of here for the week. PointsBet announced a partnership with NBC Sports Chicago to launch a 3-game series of betcasts.
I love those things. They're fun watching betcasts for basketball and golf. I think where did they have a golf pod? Peacock. Yeah, that was great.
Well, they had the deal with NBC Sports, which allows them to do all these different types of ideas. They test it out. The betcast they did for golf was great.
Yeah,
I have yet to see the basketball betcast.
I have. I mean, it's great. It's
the PointsBet ones, or
I don't know what it was. It was I think it was NBC. So I'm not sure if
it was
PointsBet
NBC
was
Sports,
involved.
it was PointsBet.
But no, there was the stats are there. Someone takes a shot and it goes in, and on the screen it tells you how many points he has so far, and so that's really great. If you're betting on that game, it really keeps you up to date of how you're doing in the bet.
Well, they're going to be doing 3 betcasts for the Chicago Bulls.
All right.
And it looks like all 3 are going to be with the Washington Wizards. So there's going to be a dual betcast between Chicago and the Washington, NBC Sports Washington. So they're going to be doing 3 games. They're doing live odds, and they're also going to be alternating the announcers too. They're going to have some with the NBC Chicago guys, some with the NBC Washington guys, and I think one of them is actually going to split them up or something, or alternate. So it'll be kind of interesting to watch how the betcast happens, occurs. I mean,
they're
great.
becoming
I mean, commonplace,
especially if you have that option of the big thing now is was the same game parlays.
Yes,
and if you have an option of cashing out, that's always a great feature when you watching a betcast, and you know when to bail, and you know when to make an in-play bet. So it kind of helps you. More stats, more information always helps making bets.
Well, the one thing that puts PointsBet at a major advantage over some of the other books, and they're going to catch up, is that situation where PointsBet has figured out how to get rid of that latency issue for the data. So they have that live same game parlay stuff going on. They've got for these things, they're going to have futures odds, player props, over under, and moving money lines throughout the broadcasts. So they're going to be increasing the data feed more so than anything else. The bet types, they really can't change the types of bets you're going to be seeing. They're just going to be able to update the odds a lot quicker than a lot of other books.
The information you need. I mean, especially in the same game parlays. I mean, if you have some player that you're betting on and getting a certain amount of points, like in a halftime or the entire game, it keeps you up to date of what they're doing. I mean, the guy takes a shot, and the betcast I saw, as soon as if he makes it, it tells you how many points he has so far.
Yes.
So that's perfect.
PointsBet is also this past weekend for the Final Four. They did a live streamed, I guess you can call it a sports psychology panel. To analyze the game itself, the players, body language. During the games, they're going to have, because we're taping this before the Final Four here over the weekend. They're going to be having in-depth analyses from Northwestern University professor of sports psychology, Dr. Michelle Kouroulis, a body language expert, Scott Rouse, Carlos Boozer, the former NCAA and NBA player.
Sure.
And the head of odds at PointsBet, Jay Croucher. And they're going to be exploring, or they did explore, but I'm past tense here. They explored how, as the game progressed, how the different situations impacted the players and how that also would impact Carlos Boozer because, and I hope he won this by the time this airs, we'll know, he put a huge bet on one of the games, and they're going to be analyzing his body language through the game.
Okay, all right.
So that is a very interesting idea.
That's a lot of information that you're getting there.
Everything runs on data. You said it,
yourself. That's pretty specific.
And last but not least, we have Genius Sports making another deal for data with this time with Resorts World Bet in New York. So another sportsbook deal for Genius Sports, and also another New York book. Still waiting on the Ballybet launch too. That'll be interesting to see what happens when the 9th one comes into existence. And very quickly before we get out of here, 2 Deadwood casinos and an internet sportsbook company have each been fined $3,000 by the South Dakota Commission on Gaming for accepting illegal bets.
Can't do that.
The illegal wagers included accepting bets on college basketball games involving South Dakota State University.
Oh, okay.
Which they can't do.
So they have that same rule as New Jersey. Yes. You can't bet on the colleges and universities in your state,
right.
Huh?
And also future games on the NCAA basketball tournament before the competition field was set.
Oh, okay.
So I guess if you had like an empty bracket and you said you're going to do this game, this game, this game, you can't do that until they actually are in that part of the bracket, knows? I guess. I don't know. And also 2 other people were fined individually for manually overriding the bet limits. For the place wagers.
All right.
So they have that in effect over there too as well, and it's good to see the system's working. As always, please keep the press releases coming in, info@turnpikesportsradio.com. If you've been watching this on TV, there are additional stories on the ticker as they fly by down at the bottom of the screen. And also, after this show is released, you're going to see a full print version on our blogs, turnpikesportsradio.com. Click on the blog button, and you will see the blog there, the full print version of the book report there.
And that'll do for us this week. We'll see you next time on the Turnpike.